Okay, we're crisscross applesauce. Where are our hands? In our lap, thank you. Our eyeballs are where? On me, eyeball to eyeball. Okay, y'all are going to take y'all are gonna take a comprehension test over Dr. Martin Luther King, okay? Before we read the story, I'm going to read the questions, and then I'll read the questions again after, okay? But I'm gonna read them before so that y'all can think of things in the book. Think of the answers, okay? So like where he was born. This is the first question. Don't answer it out loud, okay? Just think in your head. Where was Dr. King born? Your choices are Dallas, Texas, Montgomery, Alabama, and Atlanta, Georgia, okay? If you don't know now, that's okay. When we read the book, we might find the answer, okay? Number 2, what month do we celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day? Don't answer. March, January, or September? Okay, number 3. Dr. King was a pastor, speaker, and leader. True or false? Okay, so be thinking of that when we hear the story. Number 4. What type of award did Dr. King receive? The Good Citizen Award, the Caldecott Medal, or the Nobel Peace Prize? What did Dr. King's father do for a living? So what does the dad do? Was he a banker, a doctor, a professor, or a pastor? What did Dr. King fight for? Equality, nutrition, or education? Number 7, Dr. King's famous speech was titled People Everywhere. True or false? And the last one asks, what did Dr. King believe people should do when others were being treated unfairly? Ignore one another, use their words to speak to one another, start a fight, or none of the above? Okay, so let's be thinking of those whenever we read our story. Now today's story is called My Brother Martin. So who can raise their hand and give me a prediction of what this book is going to be about and why it might be different from the rest? Riley, what do you think?
I think he might have a sister, and she's telling the story about them.
Oh, he might have a sister and she's the one telling this story? What do you think, Lily?
I think that they're brothers and sister, and he is going to, she's gonna, tell about him and everything he did.
What do you think, Sarah?
I think it's going to be about him preaching.
About him preaching? Maybe, we might hear about that. What do you think, Briazzi?
Probably the stories about how he did have a sister, but how his sister grew up. She wrote the book because probably she missed his brother.
She missed her brother. Maybe. Okay, so is this the same point of view that we've read in the other books, or is this going to be in a different point of view?
A different point of view.
You're right. It says, a sister remembers growing up with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So it's written from his sister's point of view. So it's going to be a little bit different than what we've read. Here we go. We're just going to get into it.
It is a picture on the back.
Oh, there is a picture on the back. Who do you think that is?
Martin Luther King Jr.
I bet you're right.
That's when he was like a little
When he was a little boy? Yep, I think so. We start off with a quote. I have a dream that one day little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. That's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on August 28, 1963.
It might be from the other book we read yesterday.
Maybe. All right, y'all remember to raise your hands if you want to comment, okay? My Brother Martin, a sister remembers growing up with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by Christine King Ferris, illustrated by Chris Santapetit. He has a weird last name. Okay, here we go. Gather round and listen as I share childhood memories of my brother, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I am his older sister, and I've known him longer than anyone else. I knew him long before the speeches he gave and the marches he led and the prizes he won. I even knew him before he first dreamed the dream that would change the world. What do you think this is?
Her sister. His sister.
Wow, let's find out. Ooh, it's so colorful.
Oh, baby. That's baby. So cute.
Oh, cute little baby. We were born in the same room, my brother Martin and I. I was an early baby, born sooner than expected. Mother dear and Daddy placed me in the chiffon drawer the dresser drawer that stood in the corner of their upstairs bedroom. I got a crib a few days afterward. A year and a half later, Martin spent his first night in that hand-me-down crib in the very same room. The house where we were born belonged to Mother Dear's parents, our grandparents, the Reverend and Mrs. A.D. Williams. We lived there with them and our Aunt Ida, our grandmother's sister. So it says that they live with their grandparents. So who do you, let's take a guess. Who?
That's his big sister.
Okay, big sister. Raise your hand and tell me who we think that these people might be. Raise your hand. Oh, we didn't raise our hand. Maria, who do you think it is?
Mom and Dad.
Mom and Dad. Then we've got some others over here. Briazzi, who are these people?
Their grandparents.
Grandparents. Good job. It says that she had to stay in the dresser drawer. Why do you think that she had to sleep in the dresser drawer? Piper?
Because she didn't have a crib yet.
Yeah, she didn't have a crib yet. What happened? She arrived sooner than expected, right?
So they didn't have a crib ready for her yet.
You're right.
Because she came sooner.
Mm-hmm. And not long after my brother Martin, who we called ML because he and Daddy had the same name, our baby brother was born. His name was Alfred Daniel, but we called him AD after our grandfather. They called me Christine, and like 3 peas in a pod, we grew up together. Our days and rooms were filled with adventure stories and tinker toys, with dolls and Monopoly and Chinese checkers. And although Daddy, who was an important minister, and Mother dear, who was known far and wide as a musician, often had work that took them away from home, our grandmother was always there to take care of us. I remember days sitting at her feet as she and Aunt Ida filled us with grand memories of their childhood and read to us about all the wonderful places in the world. Raise your hand if you sometimes get babysat by your grandma or grandpa.
What? What you saying?
Does your grandma or grandpa sometimes watch you or babysit you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so lots of you. So that he's saying that she is saying that she and her siblings had to be watched by their grandparents a lot because her parents were working all the time. And of course, my brothers and I had each other. We 3 stuck together like the pages in a brand new book. And being normal young children, we were almost always up to something. Our best prank involved a fur piece that belonged to our grandmother. It looked almost alive with its tiny feet and little head and gleaming glass eyes. So every once in a while, in the waning light of evening, we'd tie that fur piece to a stick and, hiding behind the hedge in front of our house, we would dangle it in front of an unsuspecting passerby. Boy, you could hear the screams of fright all across the neighborhood. So, Aaron, what are they doing? They're scaring people. With what? What is it, Bailey? It's like a piece of fur, right?
No, I think it's a puppet that is a tiger, like a very, 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 very skinny tiger.
It just looks like a scary little animal. What kind of animal does that look like?
Oh, it looks like a weasel.
Kind of looks like a weasel, yeah.
Looks like
And
a
they're
very
scaring
well.
people walked by. Did y'all see them hiding in the bushes?
They just reached the. It looks like a lizard.
Is that something that y'all would do?
It's not.
Uh-oh, y'all are gonna like this page. Then there was the time Mother Deer decided that her children should all learn to play piano. I didn't mind too much, but ML and AD preferred being outside to being stuck inside with our piano teacher, Mr. Man, who would rap your knuckles with a ruler just for playing the wrong notes. Well, one morning, ML and AD decided to loosen the legs on the piano bench so we wouldn't have to practice. We didn't tell Mr. Man, and when he sat down, crash! Down he went.
It's kind of like the show. I don't think that was a good idea.
I don't think that was a good idea either, Addie.
He could have got hurt.
Oh, you're right, he could have gotten hurt. Okay, here we go. But mostly we were good, obedient children, and ML did learn to play a few songs on the piano. He even went off to sing with our mother a time or two. Given his love for singing and music, I'm sure he could have become as good a musician as our mother had his life not called him down a different path. But that's just what his life did. My brothers and I grew up a long time ago, back in a time when certain places in our country had unfair laws that said it was right to keep black people separate because our skin was darker, and our ancestors had been captured in far off Africa and brought to America as slaves. So, who do we think that is playing the piano?
Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, good junior, it's not senior. Atlanta, Georgia, the city in which we were growing up. Oh, hold on. Atlanta, Georgia, the city in which we were growing up,
Well, that's one of them.
had those laws. Because of those laws, my family rarely went to the picture shows or visited Grant Park with its famous cyclorama. Whoa. So I think that that is a famous, I have no idea what that is. What is a cyclorama?
I think a treasure.
We'll look that up after, we'll look that word up afterwards,
What's
because
it?
I don't even know what that means.
I think a trash can.
I don't think so.
Recycle.
In fact, to this very day, I don't recall ever seeing my father on a streetcar. Because of those laws and the indignity that went with them, Daddy preferred keeping ML, AD, and me close to home, where we'd be protected. We lived in a neighborhood in Atlanta that is now called Sweet Auburn. It was named for Auburn Avenue, the street that ran in front of our house. On our side of the street stood 2-story frame houses similar to the one that we lived in. Across it crouched a line of 1-story row houses and a store owner owned by a white family. So this is their neighborhood.
That's so pretty.
I think it's pretty. I think it is too. These are beautiful illustrations,
Those are
huh?
old-fashioned cars.
Yeah.
Those look like a hot rod.
What?
I seen one.
Yes, Bailey, thank you for raising your hand.
Those cars. My nana had one of those when they came home. They had one of those.
Wow. Who can raise their hand and tell me why they think these cars look different than the cars that we drive today? Ozzy, what do you think? Why are these cars different than our cars?
Because they have different top rims, though.
Different rims and stuff? Yeah, they do, but why are these different? What do you think, Rayla?
They're a different model than our cars.
When were these cars made? Piper?
Back in the day, they were made back whenever he was born.
So these were from a long time ago. Our cars look different because they're just newer models, right?
Yeah. A lot of people have those.
You're right. Some people do still have these.
Like religion. Here's a hot
When we were young, all the children along Auburn Avenue played together, even the 2 boys whose parents owned the store. And since our house was a favorite gathering place, these boys played with us in our backyard. So the store owner's kids It'd be this one and this one. They came and played with them a lot in their backyard.
And the white people?
You're right.
The white people
were
didn't
white.
like
But
that.
they might get in trouble for that because like black people and white kids aren't allowed to be together.
You're right. Let's see what happens.
I've not seen this book.
So they played in the backyard and ran with ML and AD to the firehouse on the corner where they watched the engines and the firemen. The thought of not playing with those kids because they were different, because they were white and we were black, never entered our minds. They never thought about it.
That's cool. Those are what fire trucks used to be.
What?
Mhm.
Yeah. That's so cool. I love that.
Very, that is
Wow.
cool.
My papa, my papa used to drive one of those.
Well, one day, ML and AD went to get their playmates from across the street, just as they had done 100 times before. But they came home alone. The boys had told my brothers that they couldn't play together anymore because AD and ML had different colored skin. And that was it. Shortly afterward, the family sold the store and moved away. We never saw or heard from them again. Looking back, I realized that it was only a matter of time before the generations of cruelty and injustice that Mother and Daddy Dear and Mama and Aunt Ida had been shielding us from finally broke through. But back then, it was a crushing blow that seemed to come out of nowhere. And look at the expressions on their faces. How do you think that they're feeling? Raise your
Sad.
hand. Maria, how do you think?
Sad.
Sad? What else, Riley?
They might be kind of mad at their parents.
Mad at their parents? But maybe just a little.
The white one.
The white parent, maybe just a little, just because they're just so upset. What do you think, Charlie?
That they're sad because they're moving away and they never saw them again.
Yeah. How do you think that you would feel if that happened to
I
you?
would feel very sad.
Very sad.
I
How
would
would
be
you feel,
very
Bailey?
very
Thank you for
over.
raising your hand, Bailey.
I would feel really upset because I wouldn't like that to happen.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going.
But this was a long time ago.
Why do white people treat colored people so mean? ML asked Mother Dear afterward. And with me and ML and AD standing in front of her, trying our best to understand, Mother Dear gave the reason behind it all. Her words explained the streetcars our family avoided and the whites only sign that kept us off the elevator at City Hall. Her words told us why there were parks and museums that black people could not visit, and why some restaurants refused to serve us, and why hotels wouldn't give us rooms, and why theaters would only allow us to watch their picture shows from the balcony. But her words gave us hope.
Look at the little kid's eyeball.
She answered simply, because they just don't understand that everyone is the same. But someday, it will be better. And my brother ML looked up into our mother's face, and he said the words I remember to this day. He said, Mother Dear, one day, I'm going to turn this world upside down.
And he did. And he did.
Let's find out how he did. In the coming years, there would be other members of the cruel system called segregation. Oh, that's one of our vocabulary words. That sought to keep black people down. But it was Daddy who showed ML and AD and me how to speak out against hatred and bigotry and stand up for what's right. Daddy was the minister at Ebenezer Baptist Church. And after losing our playmates, when ML, AD, and I heard our father speak from his pulpit, his words held new meaning. So remember, this is still when they're kids. So who is this? Their dad, Martin Luther King Sr.
I thought it was gonna be G.
And what did he do for a living?
Preach.
He was a preacher. And Daddy practiced what he preached. He always stood up for himself when confronted with hatred and bigotry. And each day he shared his encounters at the dinner table. When a shoe salesman told Daddy and ML that he'd only serve them in the back of the store because they were black, Daddy took ML somewhere else to buy new shoes. Another time, a police officer pulled Daddy over and called him boy. Daddy pointed to ML sitting next to him in the car and said, "This is a boy. I'm a man. And until you call me one, I won't listen to you." These stories were as nourishing as the food that was set before us. So there's all of them at the dinner table.
Raven standing up for herself.
Yes, he was standing up for himself. And he was brave. That's a good observation, Riley. Raise your hand though, okay? Years would pass and many new lessons would be learned. There would be numerous speeches. That's a vocabulary word too, right? And marches. That's a vocabulary too. And prizes. But my brother never forgot the example of our father or the promise he made to our mother on the day his friends turned him away. What are they doing here?
Holding up some marches.
They're marching.
And holding
What
Now
could be
the big
what could be another vocabulary word for this picture? We've got marching. What could be another vocabulary? Protest. Good job.
or freedom.
They're protesting too.
And their freedom.
Freedom, they're fighting for freedom here and equality. And when he was much older, my brother ML dreamed a dream. And he is. What do you think he's doing right now?
Speech.
He's giving a speech.
Yes.
That's a vocabulary word. And turned the world upside down. Why is this? Why do you think that the illustrator chose to draw this picture here?
Because
Hold on, raise your hand. I want to choose somebody that hasn't talked in a while. Kylie, why do you think that this illustrator chose to draw this picture?
he fought and then finally Washington, I think, allowed white and black people to play.
You're right. So that's why this is so important. And this is how he turned the world upside down, right? And like you said, at Washington, he made the speech at Washington, and it made new what? Laws. Good job. So that this would be normalized. This would be just an everyday thing, and nobody would think about it twice, right? Okay, we're gonna read these one more time. Okay, these should have been questions that you kept in your mind when I was reading. Okay,
There's only one.
Let's cross off the sauce. Here we go. Think in your mind. We're not answering them yet. Okay. Where was Dr. King born? Okay, think in your brain. Dallas, Texas. Think in your brain. Oh, answer out loud. Dallas, Texas. Montgomery, Alabama. Atlanta, Georgia. What month do we celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day? March, January, or September? Don't say it. Dr. King was a pastor, speaker, and leader. True or false? What type of award did Dr. King receive? The Good Citizen Award, the Caldecott Medal, or the Nobel Peace Prize? Peace is one of our vocabulary words, right? What did Dr. King's father do for a living? Banker, doctor, professor, pastor. What did Dr. King fight for? Equality, nutrition, education. Dr. King's famous speech was titled People Everywhere. True or false? And the last one, what did Dr. King believe people should do when others were being treated unfairly? Ignore one another, use their words to speak to one another, start a fight, or none of the above. Okay. So if you are a girl, come get your paper. And you're going to walk quietly to your seat, put your binder up, and put your name on it. Very important. I need to know whose paper is whose. If you are a boy, walk to your seat, please.